Hello and welcome in. It's time to talk hoops once again. Michael McGillvrey may have left me, but you're stuck with me, Jason Andera from Midco Sports, talking hoops till the end of the year. We have made it to March, which means playoff basketball, and we're in some of the best matchups of the year as teams try to punch their ticket, especially on the girls' side. We've got all three classes into the SoDak 16, and that's where we will start in girls AA. Let's break down the SoDak 16 bracket right now. They play Friday. Washington has 6 wins in a row. Started that streak back with O'Gorman on February 10th. They've vaulted themselves all the way up to the number 1 seed. How about Pierre? They jumped up to the number 2 seed with a huge win on Monday. They had a makeup game against Jefferson and found a way to get it done, 65-58. This is a very good team that has really shown that they can play very strong. They slipped up a little bit when they went to Bismarck and lost to a North Dakota team, but since then have been playing some really good basketball, and it culminated with that win over Jefferson on Monday night. That was big for them. Meanwhile, Jefferson, they've lost 2 times now in the last 4 games, and the last 2 times they played a ranked team, they lost. They also had a close game back on February 24 when they played Aberdeen Central, and that's who they play again, Aberdeen Central. And when they just played, just over a week ago, Jefferson got out-rebounded big time in that game, and Aberdeen Central shot the ball very well from 3. That should pose a few questions for this Jefferson team as they try to re-rack, get ready, and push forward to the state tournament, where last year, as a first-year school, got a state tournament win in the first round, and they're trying to better that this season. How about O'Gorman? They found their groove. 5 wins in a row for the Knights. They beat Rapid City Central, their upcoming opponent, 49-31 last time they played, back on February 4th. Watertown has really been hot as well, won 4 out of 5. Their only loss in those last 5 games was to Harrisburg by 2. Watertown has been sneaky good, but they play Lincoln, and Lincoln got them the last time they played back on January 31. Lincoln got a 3-point win. That should be a lot of fun to see if Watertown can maybe find their way to the state tournament this year. Stevens plays Huron. Stevens won 68-45 back in January when they played the last time, as Stevens tries to match what they've done the last 2 seasons and get hot at state tournament time. Harrisburg, they drew Spearfish. And we don't talk a lot about Spearfish. Maybe we should. These 2 teams, by the way, can play some D. They're 3rd and 4th in opponents' points per game this season, and they play each other. The last time they played, middle of January, 57-52. Harrisburg got the win, but this Spearfish team, I'll tell you what, this is a team that can really cause some havoc on the defensive side, and if they get some shots to go down, they could give Harrisburg some trouble. That will be one to watch. Maybe the hottest team in AA right now, Brandon Valley. 9 wins in a row, including a win over the number 1 seed Washington team. They've beaten T-Area in a high-scoring game. They took out Harrisburg, another ranked team. They are playing great right now, and a lot of it due to how Hillary Behrens has played down the stretch. She has been magnificent. They face Mitchell and will play them for the 2nd time in a row. They just played the last regular season game of the year, and they get Mitchell this time. Mitchell on the other side of the spectrum hasn't been playing well. They've had a really tough schedule coming down the stretch, and we caught up with their head coach, Dave Brooks, to talk about the big playoff game with Brandon Valley.
One thing we do think is that our kids always played hard, and so that's all we can ask for. And so I think it's hopefully we're better today than we were on December 9th when we played here in the first game of the year. Well, like we always say, it's an easy game when the ball goes in the hole. And Spearfish is a good team, and that's actually practice yesterday. I asked the girls, anybody know the significance of February 7th? And I get a couple answers, and then one of our seniors goes, "That's the last date we won a game." We go, "Yep, that's right." And that was against Spearfish. So since then, we've kind of had the gauntlet of running against all the teams over in the Sioux Falls area, which that's good basketball over there. And so it's we knew it was going to be a tough end of the season.
So what did you learn against Brandon Valley. Of course, Brandon Valley, they've been hot lately too. But what'd you learn that you can maybe take and use against them in this SoDak 16 game?
Well, whatever we did against Hillary Barons wasn't real effective. I think she ended up with 22 points, and she's a good player. We tried some various things, and sometimes we had some success, but at the end of the day, that fourth quarter, they kind of took over and had some transition buckets on us, and we just couldn't make a shot. Like you asked earlier, if you shoot pretty good, we maybe can be okay, but you got to credit Brandon Valley and the defense. And
It looks like you guys have fun. I see your Instagram videos and stuff about when you win in the locker room, and that looks like you guys have fun.
well, I get wet. It's not the Gatorade shower, so I know when they tell me, "Wait, you can't go in just yet." After a win, it's kind of going, "Okay, this is what's this going to happen?" And I reminded them yesterday at that meeting. I said that, or at practice, at February 7th, that's the last time I took a shower. You guys got me wet. But yeah, when we just haven't. And I tell the girls we're playing, if you want to laugh out on the court or smile because something happens, you bank in a three or something. I mean, it's a game. It's 32 minutes. We work hard, and if something happens that you think is funny, then go ahead and laugh. I don't care. I mean, we got to have a little bit of fun while we're playing.
So there's your look at Double A. It's going to be absolutely crazy. That's coming up Friday, but even earlier than that, Thursday, Class A gets it going with their SoDak 16. And there should be a lot of drama here as well. Hamlin comes in as the number 1 seed in Class A. They have gone all year without a loss. They will try to punch their ticket and be the number 1 seed sitting there on state tournament time, which comes up in just a week. But here, let's look at some of the more interesting games of the bracket on the SoDak 16 side. Let's talk about St. Thomas More and Flandreau. They played at the Hanson Classics, and the Cavs absolutely took it to Flandreau. They were able to shut down Claire Shepard and got a 20-point victory, but Flandreau playing much better lately. They got past Florence Henry, held Florence Henry to 25 points in Region 2B play. That was a big win for Flandreau as they move on to try to avenge that loss to the Cavaliers. Another one that piques my interest, how about Sisseton? Sisseton is a team that's only lost twice this year. They lost to Hamlin, who has beaten everybody this year, and then they lost to Sioux Falls Christian. Other than that, Sisseton is a team that really is interesting, and they take on Parkston, the 7-10 matchup. I mean, the seed matchup looks good. This should be one that should be a lot of fun. Sisseton actually beat Florence Henry, another team that beat Florence Henry just recently. So look for them to maybe make some noise coming down the stretch. Another interesting game, you've got Sioux Falls Christian taking on Lennox. Sioux Falls Christian has vaulted themselves all the way up to the number 3 seed. Didn't get a lot of love in the polls this year, but came on strong at the end. I think they're a team to watch for sure. Rapid City Christian and Miller is the 8-9 game. That's always an interesting matchup. I think Rapid City Christian has played a little tougher schedule to this point. I would expect them to get past Miller, but you never know what's going to happen. Lakota Tech has challenged themselves with a tough schedule, found their way into a number 6 seed. They should be really good. Red Cloud takes on Garrettson. Red Cloud suffered a couple losses toward the end of the year, but they got off to such a great start this year in the LNI and look like a team that could cause some havoc with just their style of play against Garrettson. And then how about Wagner and T-Area, the one that everybody's kind of pointing to? What did T-Area do when they had to play Vermilion in the regions? They found a way to get it done. They avenged their earlier loss in the season. Won in double overtime. They had 2 players get into 30-point range with Katie Vasika and Mara Grant. An unbelievable game for the T-Area Titans, and they're playing as well as anybody. Remember, T-Area is 13-9, but they've played 7 double-A teams this year, so it skews that record just a little bit. And, of course, they were missing their best player, Katie Vasika, most of the season in the middle of the year. And now that she's come back, the team is playing very well together, and they will pose a definite challenge to this Wagner team, who is just that one blemish on the year when they lost to Vermilion at the Hanson Classic, and feel like they're playing much better than they were earlier in the year. And I had a chance to talk to Michael Koupal, their head coach, about not only their season, but the big matchup with T-Area.
Tell me about the maturation process from last year to this year. Still have some young leaders, but you've got, players at all those different classes contributing.
Yes, exactly. We returned back 6 of our 7 that pretty much well played from last year. And just, the development, playing through summer basketball. 3 of them played together all summer, my seniors, and then the other 3 just playing on, very competitive teams, playing against good competition all summer. And then, just kind of trying to intermix with some of our young girls. We didn't get as much of an intermix as I'd have liked to, but I think our top end right now is they're pulling all the weight, but again, it comes down into practice where they're pushing our young girls, and our young girls are getting after them, making them execute and get things done on the court when it really matters. So going back from last year, we got to where we wanted to be, and we just had 2 tough games there at the end. They didn't turn out in our favor, and so kind of got to kind of get a little chip on your shoulder, and things aren't going to be given to you, and it doesn't matter what level, whether it's high school, college, or you go into the pros. Things aren't given. I mean, everything's got to be worked for, and I think that's one thing that our girls really understand this year is you got to work for stuff.
Obviously, coming up, you've got a team that has some players that they can make things happen just individually, and as a team, they've gotten better too. It should be an interesting matchup. What do you look forward to in this matchup?
I mean, they're a great team. I mean, it's unfortunate at this point in the season, them having to play Vermilion, and Vermilion's a good team, and should they be in the state tournament? Yes. It's so unfortunate that those 2 teams had a matchup, and then now we get to match up with them. It's only one of us is going to make it to the state tournament, but they're a very good team. They just had some unfortunate luck, with Katie getting hurt at the beginning of the year, and I'm glad she's back. We're just kind of looking at this now as it's a state tournament game. I mean, granted, you lose, you don't get the other 3, but I mean that this is realistically, this is what we got. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight. We got to make sure we're on the top of our game, because they're going to be on the top of their game, coming in. I mean, they're riding high right now, where they just knocked off the number 2 team in the state, a team they got a revenge loss from when they lost by 30. And they beat them in double overtime, so they got a lot of emotion running as well. We just got to play our game. They got 2 really good players. With Katie Vasika on the outside. I mean, she can play outside, inside, and Mara Grant. She reminds me of our Emma Yost. I mean, those 2, that should be a good matchup with those 2, depending if they're going to match up with her on Emma and stuff like that. But it should be fun. It's going to be it'll be a dogfight. I mean, both teams got to show up and they got to execute, and only time's going to tell, I guess.
So Thursday night will be packed with great games in Girls A, and it's also packed with great games in Girls B. There's just not enough time to watch all these great matchups at once. I'm sure a lot of people will be keeping up with the scores as they come out. But when we look at Girls B, they're all trying to get to the state tournament as well. And one of the more interesting matchups, Ethan and Corsica Stickney. Yes, Corsica Stickney looked dead halfway through the year. They had lost a lot of games. They came in with some accolades coming into the year, made it to the state tournament the last couple of seasons. Avery Broughton coming off of her 2nd major knee injury in as many years, just trying to get back, and she's played very well here and now in the last month or so, but a team that isn't the same as they were last year, with a very senior-heavy team. This year trying to get a lot of young players to step up and support Avery Broughton, and they've done that in the last week. Corsica Stickney punches their ticket, but they have the 15 seed. They have to face Ethan, one of the hottest teams in Class B right now. They're just consistent. Ethan might not have those high-end players that some of these other teams have in Class B, but they have a very well-rounded, hungry team that looks like they could cause some real trouble for Corsica Stickney. They played back on January 20th, and it was Ethan that was victorious by 6 points. So a big rematch there between 2 really good teams, 2 really good coaches, and Tom Young for Ethan and Larissa Broughton in Corsica Stickney. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Another one that really pops off the page, Wall versus Warner. 2 teams that have spent some time in the rankings this year. Wall has won 9 in a row right now, and they've played a ton of Class A teams. So when you look at their record, again, a little deceiving. Wall has 5 losses on the year, 4 of those losses coming to Class A teams, and now that they're in the Class B tournament, could pose some problems for teams, including Warner. But Warner's a team that has been very solid as well. This has been a team that's fun to watch. Avon Nielsen has been hitting the boards at a record pace, and they have a lot of different scorers too. So Warner, who was ranked earlier, lost a few maybe they felt like they shouldn't have. That could be really interesting as we come down the stretch. The rest of the bracket, look at Howard, a team with just 4 losses on the year that has a lot of firepower, a lot of different players who can put up points. They take on Wessington Springs. Castlewood plays Timberlake. Castlewood, again, don't have a deep bench, but they have some really good players in that top 5 that could cause some real interesting action on Thursday night. Jones County takes on Centerville. Again, Centerville, a team that's been in the rankings almost all season long. They've challenged themselves with some tough games, but Jones County not backing down from anybody. That may be one of the best games of the entire round, the 8-9 matchup. As we look at the top 4 seeds, Wolsey-Wessington comes in at 20-2. They take on Leola Frederick. We already talked about Ethan and Corsica, that 2-15 matchup. Viborg Hurley has been 1 in the polls almost all season long. They take on a young, improving Lyman team that's been dangerous this year. And Sully Buttes plays Harding County. I wouldn't be surprised to see Harding County compete with them in that game, but Sully Buttes is obviously a traditional great team, and they've really stepped up with some really tough games, including a really close one with Wolsey-Wessington not that long ago. So I think Sully Buttes could be a power if they can make it to the state tournament. Going to be a lot of interesting games, and to help us break down the Class B bracket and to talk about the season from Wolsey-Wessington, we talked to the top-seeded Warbirds head coach, Josh McGillvrey.
How would you assess the year? I mean, couple highs, couple lows, mostly highs though. And just what do you think back on the season? What do you think most of?
Yeah, overall, it's been a spectacular season. There's a lot of teams you look at last year that we just came up a little bit short on. I'll start kind of at the beginning there. Miller, we lost by 2 points last year off kind of a last second deal. And, we were able to get that W this year. It was a close one. We were down, with 2 minutes left in the game, but came back and had that will to win there. And, that's what we're seeing a lot of, like last year it was 4 points. We fell short here, couple possessions here. And we really just had that mental fortitude, it feels like, to where we had that right mindset. And I think a lot of that started with our volleyball season. We had a very successful volleyball season, and I could just tell that first day of practice, these girls, it was something different this year. They were ready to work. I didn't have to beg them to get on that line and run a 17 for me. They were willing. So, that I looked on the whole overall season. We finished the season, 18-2, our 2 losses. Viborg Hurley at the Corn Palace. Gal, we were with them all 3 quarters there. We came out swinging, we were up 11-2 in that first quarter. But they closed the gap there, credit to Viborg Hurley. They got one hell of a coach and a program, and they were able to get us in the fourth there. We kind of ran out of gas there, but we kind of feel that was at the beginning of the season there, and we've came a long way since then, and we're hopefully we get another opportunity to get back at them there.
All right, time to turn our attention to the boys' side. Let's talk about boys AA. This is already set at the Sweet 16 or the SoDak 16 brackets, and Jefferson comes in as the number 1 seed, but they've now lost twice in their last 3 games. Not exactly how you want to be coming in to postseason play, but those 2 losses were tough. They lost to Washington, a team that's been on fire lately. They lost to Pierre, who have really got things together and took it to them on a Monday makeup game. But speaking of Pierre, they move up to number 6 in their seedings because of the way they played against Jefferson. And let's talk about Jackson Edmond. This guy has been absolutely on fire the last 2 or 3 weeks, really. But when he plays like that, it really frees up a lot of their other players to make plays. Benjamin Heisler has been outstanding as a 20-plus point scorer. Of course, Lincoln Kienholt's a superior athlete who gets the entire team involved. And when they have 3 players like that playing at a high level, they can beat a lot of different teams. And they figured some stuff out defensively, too, that I think is going to help Pierre as they try to make a run to the state tournament. Speaking of Pierre, they take on O'Gorman, who just a month ago lost to O'Gorman 68-64, so a tough 6-11 matchup. All these matchups could be really interesting. How about Brandon Valley taking on Harrisburg? Brandon Valley, for a time thought maybe they'd be a 4 seed, 5 seed. They dropped down to the 8 seed, not playing their best over the last month, have a couple injuries that they've dealt with and a couple different playing rotations that they have not had the luxury of playing with all season long. So Craig Nelson trying to find the right groove as they head into that 8-9 matchup with Harrisburg. And Harrisburg, of course, has some explosive scorers, but the last time they played, Brandon Valley was able to negate those explosive scorers and held them to 44 points, getting a 13-point win. So we'll see if that one has the same flavor as the last time they played or not, but I could see anything going either way in that one. Let's talk about Washington. They've won 8 in a row now. 5 of those games against ranked teams, and we had to talk to Jeff Tobin. What happened to this Washington Warrior team that made them so powerful so late in the season?
Well, we changed our starting lineup up a little bit. So we were starting Daniel Sanchez for the majority of the first portion of the season, and Dan did a tremendous job stepping in when Trey got hurt earlier in the year, and we inserted him hoping to get production, and we did. Dan's a really good offensive player and good defensively as well, and we kind of got to the point in the year where we were looking at our team and we just thought we wanted just to get a little bit longer, a little bigger, and maybe we could do some different things defensively if we inserted Gage Gasca. So we inserted Gage. I think it was against Brandon Valley, and we kind of started to just mix some things up defensively, a little man, little zone, just kind of be a team that does some different things. And, luckily we kind of fell into a little rhythm, and we're able to alter some shots and able to get some more rebounds and just be a little bit more covered on the full, sideline to sideline, and limit some defensive rotations. And then we're lucky to come off the bench and have guys like Trey and Dan Sanchez and some, explosive players with length too that can buy in, and then we can mix it up even more when we go to our bench defensively. And so, Gage Gask has been huge. And then, on that bottom side, you have 6'7", you have 6'5", and you have 6'3" with length and athleticism, and you've got guards up top with it too. And we like our chances with being able to cover that space up in a hurry and make shots difficult.
Just from the outside looking in, watching your team, it feels like you've become way more consistent throughout the year too, especially players like Acott. Mendala's always feels like he's been consistent, but there's some guys who just have kind of gotten into a groove where you know what you're going to get from them on a nightly basis. Is that accurate or no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that took time. It always takes time with new groups, with new roles to fit into. And Mendala's one who had to learn how to kind of fill the shoes of Macaulay Kumbalo in a sense. Like, I'm going to have the ball in my hands for majority of the game. And, how do I fill that knowing that I'm not an 18 point per game scorer or a guy that can go necessarily get 39 like MK could, but Mendala does it a different way. He does it on both sides of the floor, and it took time for him to adjust to being that guy. And, then other guys stepping into roles with AJ being new to our team, it took him time to kind of see how he fit, where he could find success, and he's done that. And then that, kind of rippled into how does Eric Shepard fit, and how does Cole Peterson, Trey Gotten, Gage Gasca, Dan Sanchez, all these guys who were trying to find their way. And, we just constantly told them throughout the course of the first portion of the year, like, we don't have to have it figured out yet. We're in some of these ball games that we're not playing well, and we don't necessarily know how we're supposed to play yet. And we just need to figure it out by February and March. And so, we're kind of doing that right now, and we know that still we have things to figure out, especially offensively and finding that consistency at times. But we like where we're at, and we like our identity right now, and we're having to play a team like Huron who can put points on the scoreboard on Saturday. So we need to show up and play well, and we know that they'll be ready as well.
We didn't touch on a couple of the other matchups. Let's talk about those. Yankton takes on Aberdeen Central. Yankton, who thought that they would, coming into the season, would be the number 4 seed coming into the SoDak 16? I did not. They have been outstanding, and Rugby Riken has been outstanding. But not only him, he gets the rest of the team involved. This has been a really solid team all year. I did not think they'd be a 15-win team at this point, so congratulations to the Bucks. They've been really good. And they take on Aberdeen Central, a team that had a nice little streak in January, kind of came back to life here in the last couple of weeks, but they could go on a streak again. Spencer Barr has been one of the most elite scorers in the class, so that'll be a lot of fun to see if maybe they can make a game out of it against Yankton. Sioux Falls, Washington, we just talked about, plays Huron. Mitchell takes on Watertown. Watertown has been in some close games. They have, I think, really played above their heads this year, too. A team that really I didn't expect much out of coming into the year has found a way to compete in several games and win 7 games. So that's been a really good year for the Arrows. They take on a really tough Mitchell team who shares the ball about as well as anybody in the state right now. I love that they can bring 4 or 5 different guys who can just go off at any different time. Dylan Solik had a huge game against Brandon Valley, was able to shoot from the outside last week and shown that he and Steele Morgan and some of those guys with Tally and all those guys can really show up on any given night and make things happen. Roosevelt takes on Sturgis. Sturgis, I mean, they've had a good year. Won 10 games, had 1 game canceled, so have been above 500. But Roosevelt plays about as up-tempo as anybody in this class. They can rock when they need to, and I'm sure they're looking forward to this matchup. They think just the way this game plays out, maybe they can keep the pace up a little bit and find a way to rattle Sturgis Brown. We'll see how that plays out. Sioux Falls Lincoln, of course, 3 losses on the year. Maybe one of the best outside shooting teams in the state, takes on Rapid City Central. And at this point, they've got to be confident that they can get it done in this SoDak 16 round. And we talked about Jefferson maintaining that number 1 seed, but play a Rapid City Stevens team who really has had some bad luck in a few games, but they should have enough personnel to get by Stevens. We'll see if they can bounce back and get right at the right time. When we look at Class Boys A and Boys B, we're still not quite to the SoDak 16. A couple of games to decide who will make that. That will be played next Tuesday, so those will be the last tickets punched, and we'll get you wrapped up next Wednesday. We'll get you wrapped up next Wednesday for Talkin' Hoops as we preview the girls' state tournaments, and we'll have an idea on the boys' side too, but we'll get a little bit deeper into that before their week of state title contention games, as their state tournament doesn't go until the next week after that. But one note on the boys A, we have to talk about Vermilion finding a way to get the upset against Lennox. I thought Lennox was playing as well as anybody in Class A, but they got met with a really tough Vermilion defense. It was only able to put up 47 points and lost a close one on Tuesday night. So Vermilion, a team that's been really good the last couple of years, found a way to be playing their best at the right time and got it done on Tuesday to upset Lennox. That'll do it for Talkin' Hoops for this week. We'll be back next week, as I said, to preview the girls' state tournaments. Should be a lot of fun. Make sure to join us.